On today's show, the winning streak is now over for the Hawks, and it came crashing down on the Sunday evening in a lopsided loss at the hands of Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets. We'll get into how it actually unfolded. It was not great from the beginning for the Hawks in this one, plus some nuance, look ahead to Wednesday's game in New York, and much more, and all that is coming up.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1862 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Rowland, coming to you on a Sunday evening into Monday. And today's podcast is brought to you by the folks at FanDuel Sportsbook. Better get a big return with FanDuel. If you're a new customer, place a $5 bet. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. The place to go is FanDuel.com to get started. I also want to encourage you, as I always do at the top of the podcast, make your first listen each and every day here at Locked On Hawks. Check us out and subscribe to the show anywhere you find your podcasts. We're on the audio side, like Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Overcast, etc. Plus, we're on YouTube. Please like this video as you are watching it. And if you want to support the show, the best possible way is to subscribe to the podcast on audio and on video, and it's very much appreciated. We'll dive into the podcast today, and to be honestly, what was a pretty disappointing result for the Hawks, a 141-111 loss at home against the Denver Nuggets on this Sunday evening, snapping the 6-game winning streak for the Hawks. It was the longest streak the Hawks have had positively in about 2 years. They would play really well, and that has not necessarily changed today, but they did not play well in this game, as we'll get into in some detail here. They never led against Nikola Jokic and company on this Sunday evening. They were down 15 points at the end of the first quarter. It was 23 by halftime, and it was more competitive in the second half. The Hawks played, I think, reasonably well for about a quarter and a half after halftime, but the damage is already done, and you want to just assume that would have continued. So I'll start here. It's not an excuse. It's just an explanation to some degree. The Hawks were without two of their top 5 players in this game. Jalen Johnson and Bogdanovic both missed this one. They were listed as questionable coming in. Jalen the day before, and then Bogey was added to the injury report on Sunday afternoon. And Jalen was questionable with right shoulder soreness. Now, if you listen to the show on Friday evening, episode 1861, you would have heard me refer to a pretty giant wrap that Jalen had on his right shoulder, both during and after that game. That is the shoulder that he missed this game for. So we don't know anything beyond just the right shoulder soreness that he was listed with in this game, but he ended up not playing. And, of course, it's not a huge surprise that he didn't play based on that kind of nugget from Friday, but it's a massive loss. Beyond the individual stats, and Jalen's stats are awesome this year, 20 and 10, all those things, they have been really bad with him on the bench all year long. In fact, including tonight now, the Hawks have a minus 12.5 net rating with Jalen on the bench. That's like a bottom 3 team in the league kind of level with Jalen off the court all year long. So that's one thing. And then this is also a terrible, terrible matchup to be without Jalen. Maybe the worst one in the league, because Nikola Jokic is an absolute freak. And while Jalen wouldn't have defended him one-on-one, having a guy who is 6'9" and rangy and athletic, who can kind of run the break and help defensively and rebound, all of that would have been very, very helpful in this game. And I'm not saying they would have won with Jalen. Obviously, it's a 30-point loss, but Jalen would help a lot. It was a big, big loss to have him out in this game. We will see about the Wednesday situation when it comes to the Hawks and the Knicks. Hopefully just a one-game absence, and they're kind of just being precautionary with him. But that's what we know right now. Also, Bogey pops up today on Sunday with a left quad contusion. He was out there pregame, kind of shooting around, warming up. I think he was – with Bogey, they kind of like to err on the side of caution. So hopefully that's the same thing. Like maybe it's like a one-game issue for him. Didn't seem to be in dire straits, but notable that they were without 2 of their better players, and especially offensively, where the Hawks struggled mightily in this game, they would have been quite useful. It was, though, on the other side, if you want to be mad about this game, I don't blame you necessarily, because it was a big situational edge in theory for the Hawks, because the Hawks were facing a team that played last night in Washington, D.C., as I referred to on Friday. Now, Jokic is the best player in the world, which Quinn said plainly. I am saying plainly. I think it's very obvious he's the best player in the world right now. He had 56 points on Saturday, and they lost to Washington because they were not good. Everybody else was pretty bad for the Wizards. Sorry, for the Nuggets. In this game, they got Aaron Gordon back, which is certainly helpful, but they played great. I got a text that I shared from an unnamed person in the Hawks organization, just noting last night's score in Washington and kind of they didn't say they were scared or anything like that, but it was one of those things like they were assuming that the Nuggets were going to be motivated tonight, and they obviously were. So, look, I'll dive into what actually transpired here. Big picture, what I will say, I was not I wasn't surprised. I kind of laughed a little bit at some of the negative reaction to this one. And yeah, it's a bad game, no question. The Hawks did just win 6 games in a row, so I have a hard time summoning too much anguish about this performance, especially without 2 guys that were our key pieces. But as far as the analysis goes, the Hawks just didn't play well at all, offensively, defensively. After watching the game again before I recorded the podcast, I think the shot quality was better than I thought it was the first time around. But they did not shoot the ball well the entire game. And as I am kind of always saying on the podcast, like when you don't score, it puts your defense in bad spots and vice versa. And that happened in this game. So I will say this. The offense I thought was worse than the defense in this game, which I think would probably not be the takeaway if you just saw the score, 141-111. Number one, it was a fast-paced game in a lot of respects, which leads to more scoring. But it is more understandable to me to struggle defensively in this game, given that they were playing a scalding hot Jokic and a team that's very good on offense. And that's understandable. So offensively, the Hawks had a 104 offensive rating in this game. That's bad. That's like bottom 5 of the league, bad. It was better after halftime when they were already down big at halftime. But in the first half, here's the money stat probably of the game, in my opinion. They had an 89 offensive rating in the first half with 41% true shooting. And as a result, they're down by 20 plus at halftime, and you're probably dead. And that's simple. They didn't make any shots in the first half. And Quinn said this too. Like Quinn was like, we got some open looks. It's true. They did, but they just didn't make them. And nothing else was able to overcome that. So for the game, they were 9 of 40 from 3, which is bad, 23%. But it was actually worse than that because they were 4 of 10 from 3 in the fourth quarter, which was mostly not competitive time. So before that, first 3 quarters, they were 5 of 30 from 3-point range. You're not going to beat a good team. And Denver's a good team. They're not a great team this year. They're still a good team. You will not win that game 5 of 30 from 3. That's just plain. They were okay inside the arc. They were poor from floater range, 35%. That's a big culprit in their struggles overall. They were pretty good when they actually got all the way to the rim, but that wasn't frequently enough. They actually did really well on the margins offensively in this game. Only 12 turnovers. That's been a weakness recently. That was not a weakness tonight at all. They were really good in the glass. They had 29 second chance points. They took 27 free throws. Like they did a lot of good things offensively, just did not make any shots. And the half court offense was first percentile in efficiency, which is that's the bad first. You want 100th in that stat. First percentile is terrible. And they just could not score when the game was slowing down offensively. I did have some good fast break moments in this game, but the only guys who shot well from the floor in the game were the bigs, and Dyson was the only guy on the team that shot better than 33% from 3. So basically, almost no one played well on offense in this game. In fact, I would probably go as far as to say actually no one played well. Maybe you could say Dyson did compared to the normal baseline, but I mean, to a man, Trey was not as good as he usually is. Ricochet struggled in this game. Hunter had a bad shooting night for the first time in a while. Garrison was really bad in this game. Beat Krejci was not very good. Like no one was good. Even Capella and Okongwu, who always shot the ball efficiently around the rim, offensively were not great. So there you go. No one played well there, and that we'll leave it there for now. Defensively, it wasn't good either. To be very clear, they were not good on either end of the floor in this game. They had a 130-ish defensive rating. That's obviously not going to win you any games. The Nuggets shot 71% from 2-point range in this game. They had 76 points in the paint. Denver famously does not take a lot of threes. In fact, they don't take enough threes. The Hawks took 13 more threes than their opponent this year for the first time all year long. They actually had the most attempts in the positive direction there all year long, but Denver actually made their threes. They were 12 of 27, and again, 71% on twos. A lot of that's Jokic just being a wizard, which is why I'm not saying it's professional basketball. Like you want to get stops. You don't want to just defer to the guy. But from the outside looking in, like we are, it is understandable to me that you can't stop Jokic. Now, the Hawks did a poor job too. So both are in play when it comes to how this game unfolded defensively. The Hawks did force 20 turnovers in this game, including 12 steals, but Denver had 43 assists in this one, and Jokic was particularly ridiculous. He scored more than 110 points in 2 days of basketball, including 48, 14, and 8. He did anything he wanted the entire game. And from the opening tip, like Capella wasn't good defensively. Like I've been praising Clint's defense all year long. He wasn't good in this game. Okongwu had no answers. Nance had no answers. They had no answers against Jokic. Nobody did. And Quinn said it early. I think as we'll come back to later on, they took Capella out of the game at halftime and didn't start him in the second half, which almost never happens. And I think there was some frustration there about the way he was defending, but whether it was game plan wise or not. But Jokic got too many good shots early on in the game, and it fed down. Like he was fighting cutters. So even when they slowed him down a little bit, he did miss 12 shots out of 29, but they gave up a lot of easy ones. Russell Westbrook was pretty good in this game, under control for Denver. So I'll stop on this point, but I would just say, like, it's understandable to give up a lot of points to Jokic and company, but the Hawks did not play well on offense or defense in this game. And the poor offense led to the poor defense in some respects as well. And to a man, as we'll get into later, I think really, by my count, the 9 guys who played in the rotation tonight, one of them played up to their standard or higher. One, Dyson Daniels. That's it. The other 9 were either slightly below or much worse than below their normal standards. And when that happens to you against a good team, you're going to lose. All right, we'll get into how this one unfolded more and more in detail in a second. First, though, a word from our partners on the podcast today. Today's show is sponsored by Mint Mobile. With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. And somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price we actually thought you're going to get is magically going to skyrocket. With Mint Mobile, you never have to worry about gotchas ever again. And when Mint Mobile tells you that it's $15 a month, when you purchase a 3-month plan, they actually mean $15 a month for a purchase of a 3-month plan. None of the complicated bills, no silly fees or upcharges. It's all plain for you at Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless, Mint Mobile's deal, and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. Give this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for $15 a month. Go to mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. That is mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Cut your wireless bill at $15 a month. That's $15 per month at mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. $45 upfront payment required, including $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, I mentioned at the top of the show that they were without Jalen Johnson and Bogey in this game, which left a starting spot available. And if you know my work well, you will know that I don't care that much about starting spots, but it was notable because they started Larry Nance in this game. He had not played a second in the last 3 weeks, and that's not what you normally would see. A guy, obviously the injury was the reason for that, but the matchup was uniquely kind of suited to starting big in some ways. The Nuggets are the biggest team in the league probably in the starting front court with Jokic, Porter Jr. at the 3 at 6'10", 6'11", plus Aaron Gordon, but it didn't work at all. Nance actually had by far the worst plus minus of any starter for the Hawks. He was not good defensively at all in this game. And offensively, it was clunky at best. I think the Nance-Capella lineup on offense was probably never going to work, and it didn't in this one. They were down 7 points by the first time out. Rotationally, it was Hunter off the bench first, which made more sense than Okongwu. They did have their hands tied to some degree, but I would not project the best defensive lineups in the world when you have Okongwu and Hunter at the 4 and the 5. That isn't going to work very often on the glass in particular, and that was the case early on. Veit was the 3rd sub, and then Garrison Matthews was the 9th guy that played in this one. The second time in a row, no Kobe Buffkin until garbage time. He actually came in at the very end of the game. Just to be on the record about this, I did not like not playing Kobe in this game. I understood it on Friday. It made more sense. You could make similar arguments today if you wanted to, but I don't like the idea of not playing him for a week plus, which might happen. If he sits on Wednesday in a high-profile must-win game where it made more sense to maybe not play him in some, I don't like not playing him for a week plus. And honestly, I thought they could have used him in this game as someone who could actually break the paint and create some shots. They didn't really have that on the second unit tonight. They gave up a late 7-0 run at the end of the first quarter. They were down by 15 points at the end of the first. And honestly, looking back, it was probably over then. The offense was just a catastrophe in the first quarter. They were 0 of 8 from 3. And then defensively, Jokic got going early on. No surprises there. I circled this in real time, so it's not like looking back on it with some rose-colored glasses. I thought the Hawks needed to win the non-Jokic minutes pretty clearly in the second quarter to get back into the game, and they did not do that. Usually, Denver is quite bad when he sits. In this game, the Nuggets actually were, I believe, like +5. Yeah, +5 with Jokic on the bench. You can't – well, you shouldn't say you can't. You probably aren't going to beat the Nuggets if you don't beat them with Jokic on the bench, and that didn't happen in this game. So the Hawks had a lineup in the second quarter where I turned to Kevin Chouinard of Fox.com, ATL129, good friend, and asked him how the Hawks were supposed to create an advantage offensively with the lineup they had on the floor. It was Vit Krejci, Garrison Matthews, Zachary Richer, Larry Nance, Onyeka Okongwu together. Now, in theory, there's some decent spacing there. There are no total non-shooters in that lineup, which is nice. But you have zero self-creation. V can kind of dribble, obviously, breaks the paint a little bit, but more so as a passer than as a scorer. Garrison is a specialist shooter who can't really handle the ball. Richer might get there eventually, but right now is definitely more of a secondary offensive player. Nance can't do anything other than shoot a spot up, basically, at this point in time, and then Okongwu. So they had no creation, and I mean, it's only 3 minutes. I don't want to make it overblown in this game, but they scored 2 points in about 3 minutes. I don't think they got a single quality look at the rim, and even just the theory of the case. What will drive me crazy is evaluating a game. It's like, okay, what was the theory of this lineup? And I do understand, like, you don't have a lot of shot creation. Being without Jalen and Bogey is 2 of your top 4 shot creators on the team. So I do understand that. But for me, it's like you kind of have to have Trey or Hunter at least. And trust me, I know that Hunter being the number 2 shot creator is a little bit troubling in itself if it's available tonight, but he would have been useful in the non-Trey minutes, and it did not work. Or even, again, go to Kobe. I mean, I think Kobe is more effective and potentially effective in that role than anybody else they had. But regardless, it didn't work at all. And suddenly you're down by 20 by the time Trey even comes back in the game. Now, the one bright spot was that Trey, when he came back in, they had actually an 11-2 run. They were alive. They were back within 11. They were in the game after Trey came back in. Dice had a great block on Aaron Gordon, a play that was actually a left-handed block, a play that you just don't see guards make. Like, Dice has gotten a lot of plaudits from me and others this year. He has been unbelievable defensively, and he was in this game. That was the only block, but he had 5 steals. Like, that was a crazy play. And for about 2 minutes, he was just dominant defensively, back and forth in that stretch. But, as much as they were better with Trey on the court in this game, Trey cannot make a floater this year. And it's not anything new if you listen to the podcast regularly, but Trey's floater is just gone for whatever reason right now. He came into the night at 40% on his floater, which is a career worst mark. And he missed 2, maybe even 3 in the first half that were pretty open. There was one that was just like totally wide open off the glass on the right side, and it didn't go in. It was like, man, he just cannot make that shot right now. Frustrating to some degree. And then the Nuggets closed the half well. And Jokic, I would say predictably and kind of on brand, hits about a 42-footer at the buzzer to go up by 23. It was probably already over. In fact, if you watch the replay back, Capella contests it like it's like a regular shot. You don't usually see, and Kevin Sherrill had a good screenshot of this. Clip jumps and contests like he's guarding a regular shot, and it's like 42 feet away. And he makes it, and it's like, oh my, I mean, what are you supposed to do on some level? Yeah, a nightmare in the first half. Again, an 89 offensive rating, 2 of 19 from 3 in the first half. It took care of the ball, but that was kind of it as far as the bright spots. In the second half, there's some stuff to talk about here. First off, Okongwu started in the second half, which I referenced before. They also started with Nance defending Jokic. So Quinn got asked about this, actually by me, post-game, about the change of going away from Capella. He gave a pretty unspecific answer. He talked about how they were just trying to try some stuff, basically. He referenced the fact that they kind of, at least in theory, wanted to maybe get some more shot creation with Nance and Okongwu playing together. I would say, he didn't say this, I think Clint and Nance don't work, which is part of why he maybe did that. But it was a thing you don't see them do really ever. I can't recall a time, maybe I'm wrong, that they've ever not started Clint in the third quarter after starting the first quarter. And it didn't work at all. I had no problem with it. Like, you're down 23, try something. Clint wasn't playing particularly well, but it was just notable. And they've tried this thing other teams have against Denver, where you have your 4, which was Nance in this case, defend Jokic, and then have your 5 behind it for backline defense. But that theory did not work at all. In fact, Denver had 21 points in about 5 minutes before Clint came back in the game. The Hawks were actually much better with Clint than without him for the most part in this game. So anyway, even with him not playing very well. But regardless, it was tough. The controversial play of the night, which not really for the result of the game, but just for all of actually how it unfolded, was that Hunter got absolutely drilled in the head by Aaron Gordon in the middle of the third quarter. He was down for a long time. The Hawks were forced into a timeout. He actually came out of the game and was evaluated for a concussion. He came back in, so that's a good sign that he was cleared from that. But it was not even called a foul, which was not great. And Lauren Williams of the AJC asked in a pool report to the official about basically the play, And the official, which is Mark Lindsay, said that during the live play, they thought Gordon made legal contact. And after the review, they said that they missed the call. Okay, fine. But what many others said, including me, was like, for something like that, Hunter was down for a long time. The Hawks couldn't challenge the play because it wasn't called a foul in real time. But the officials are well within their rights to go to the monitor to review for a hostile act or whatever. Like, you can go ahead and look at that, and that probably should have been a flagrant one, even if I know it's accidental, but it doesn't actually matter as far as the game's concerned. But just a weird play. Hopefully Hunter's okay. He came back in. That's a good sign, but just a not great moment there. The Hawks had one good run in the second half, a 16-2 run led by Dyson, hitting a three. He got a steal for a layup, but that only got them back within 16. So that cut the lead in half, basically, but it was not enough. Then they got hosed. It probably didn't matter, but the Hawks got a couple of bad calls at the end of the third quarter. One on a foul that was given to Clint that was probably a foul on Jokic that led to free throws. And then Hunter got hit on the arm on a three when he came back in, right in front of the official, and that was not called. So 5-point swing, but still, it didn't really matter. They were probably going to lose anyway. And in the fourth, the door was like open a little bit. Like, they were within 20-ish. It wasn't like it was totally dead. And then the Nuggets come out with Jokic on the bench and hit back-to-back threes. And it's like, okay, that probably slams the door. And I think for the first time in a while, I'll be able to make this point that I often make. I thought Quinn, as he almost always does, left guys in too long when this game was pretty much a no-hoper by like the 8-minute mark of the fourth quarter. They only had 11 guys available. That's the counter, is that they couldn't go to a full bench for a long time. They only had the bench. It was only Kobe, Bufkin, and David Roddy who had not played. And maybe you go to Nance, who hasn't played a lot of minutes recently. But they probably didn't need to bring Trey and Dyson and Hunter all back in with like 9 minutes to go, down by 26. Trey, being that he's dealing with the Achilles, played 40-plus minutes on Friday. Hunter was on the injury report today. It was only for knee management, but still, those guys probably shouldn't play in the fourth quarter, at least very long in this game. And I don't think that you needed to play Trey 35 minutes in a game where you were down by 20-plus the entire second half, basically. That's probably not great. But anyway, they did play reasonably well at times in the fourth, just never had a real run to make it close. The most alive they probably were in the fourth was Nance had an open three that would have cut it to 16, but he missed it. The Nuggets scored. It was back to 21. It was basically over from that point forward. And then they brought in Kobe and Roddy for the last 4 minutes or so. Kobe had 4 points in 4 minutes, but that was kind of it. So anyway, if you could just isolate the second half, the Hawks were respectable. Until garbage time, when Nuggets even blew it away a little bit more. The Hawks were only -7 after halftime, and I believe when Kobe and Roddy came in, they were almost dead even for the half. So that's a small bright spot if you want to find one. But the first half was really, really, really ugly. And even if you normalize the shot making, which I try to do when I try to analyze the game, it's like, okay, it's a make or miss league for a reason. That's a trope, but it's also true. If you just normalize the shooting, the Hawks would have been closer in this game, but they were also outplayed by Denver. So there's that. And we'll get into individual stuff in a second. There's plenty to get to there on guys who struggled, and basically almost everyone struggled in this game. First, though, a word from our partners on the podcast. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Tackle the NFL and NBA action and more this season at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, if you're a new customer, bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel. The app, FanDuel Sportsbook app, is honestly so easy to use. It gives you everything that you actually need to place your bets all in one place, and then everything you need to place your bets and that all the stuff you're looking for across the sports betting space, from over-unders, point spreads, money lines, player props, and game props, future bets, same-game parlays, live betting, and so much more. And the app at FanDuel is safe and secure. They cover the entire range of sports as well. That includes the NFL, the NBA, college football, MLB, WNBA, hockey, golf, tennis. They have all kinds of soccer leagues, domestic and international. They have F1, they have NASCAR, boxing, MMA, and so much more. And now is an awesome time to sign up with folks at FanDuel Sportsbook. The place to go is FanDuel.com to get started with $150. That's $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel. One more time, that's FanDuel.com and $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, to the players who appeared in this one, all 11 guys who were active ended up playing, but David Roddy and Kobe Bufkin were only in garbage time. Roddy took one shot and missed it, 0 points. Bufkin played 4 minutes, 4 points on 3 shots, 2 rebounds. Looked fine, but it was, again, total garbage time by them. Vit Krejci, 20 minutes, 3 points, -14, 3 assists, 2 rebounds. 0 of 4 on threes, 1 of 2 on twos. I thought Veet was not great. He's put in some bad spots. Again, not having a whole lot of shot creation around him. He is much more of a facilitator and secondary ball handler and creator than he is anything else. And when you're not playing with anyone who's a primary, your secondaries don't look great. Defensively, it was hit and miss for Veet. I don't think he's played super well in these 2 games he's been playing. I get it. Again, I said on Friday, I'll say it again now. I think you could certainly argue that Veet is more like advanced and game ready than Kobe as far as like win or go home right now. But I don't love the deployment of not playing Kobe two games in a row personally. That's just where I'll leave it. But I think Veet is better than he's been the last 2 games. The guy who was probably the worst player for the Hawks in this game was Garrison Matthews. I thought he was pretty remarkably bad, honestly. 2 points on 4 shots for Garrison. 0-4 from 3, all threes, of course. Got to the line twice, made both. 2 rebounds and an assist, 4 fouls. He was a game worst, minus 27 in 21 minutes. That's not all on him, obviously, but I thought Garrison just looked really rough. Offensively, there was no juice from him. Even his threes were not close, and that's usually what he's, of course, he's on the floor for. And then defensively looked overmatched. It's one game, maybe a little bit of rust there. He hasn't played a lot recently, but he was pretty clearly a liability, and I thought they might go away from him in the second half because he was so bad in the first half. He was maybe a little better after halftime, but he had a rough one up and down the roster. Okongwu offensively was pretty solid, 14 points on 10 shots, had 7 offensive rebounds, had an assist and a steal. Defensively, he was not good. He had no resistance against Jokic either. Again, nobody did in the front court, to be fair to Onyeka, but I thought he was just okay on the whole, probably below that. Offensively, he was one of their better guys, but defensively, it was rough. DeAndre Hunter finally had a bad shooting game. But even then, I believe now has scored 18 points or more in 7 straight games. He had 20 in this one. It just took him 21 shots to get there. He was 4 of 11 on twos, 3 of 9 from 3 rebounds and assists. Again, the big thing is that he came back in the game health-wise. He didn't play great. Nobody did, but he at least was aggressive. And I thought it was appropriate for Hunter to be hunting his shot, all puns aside, because they just needed more shot creation. I think he knew that, and they played through him a little bit more. It just didn't go in the way that it has been for the last couple of weeks. 2 of the starters, Capella, 19 minutes, 9 points, 10 rebounds, had an assist in the game, 5 fouls. Not his best work at all. I'm a click guy, but was not very good in this game. Better in the second half, probably, as most guys were, but defensively, not his best night. Usually, actually, dating back to Houston, he used to have, I think he actually still does, have some of the best numbers against Jokic defensively, but not tonight. It was not good. Ricochet was just kind of out there, 10 points, 4 rebounds. He was 3 of 9 on twos tonight. That's tough. 0-2 from 3. Missed 2 free throws, had a turnover and a steal. I think it was okay on defense, but kind of a rough night for him. Larry Nance has decent offensive numbers, 16 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, but was a starter's worst, minus 26, only was up there with Garrison. I thought defensively he was quite bad in this game, which has honestly been a theme of the season, I think, for Larry. I think he's better than this, but I think mostly he's struggled defensively. He hasn't played a lot. Offensively, his shots mostly gone in, but he was cooled off tonight from 3, 2 of 7. But impact-wise, he just was not in the right places. Or maybe, I'm sure he's rusty. He's a pro's pro. It's really hard to not play at all for 3 weeks and then suddenly be starting against Nikola Jokic and Aaron Gordon. So some grace there. I think he's better than he was tonight overall, but I thought he was not particularly good, even though he did have 16 points. I would encourage people to look beyond the scoring column. He did not have a good game in this game. Most guys didn't, but neither did he. Trey was not his best, 15 points, 10 assists. 3 steals, 4 turnovers. He was 4 of 6 on twos, 2 of 7 from 3. Only got to the line for two free throws in this one. He'll have better games, but he was not good. He was kind of a non-factor by his standards, but still they were much better with him offensively. He was actually -5 in the game, despite a 30-point loss. So it was basically when he was out there, they were able to kind of facilitate decent enough offense, even with nobody making shots. But when he sat on the bench, it was a catastrophe. In case you're doing the math at home, they were -25 in 13 minutes without Trey. Yeesh. And the one guy who played well, as I sort of teased out earlier, was Dyson Daniels. Dyson Daniels, 18 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, 5 steals, and a block. He was 5 of 10 on twos, 2 of 5 from 3. Just played well. I mean, he usually does. His steals are well documented. I've been covering them all year long, but he's been really, really good. And he was -6 too. So basically, when they had Trey and Dyson on the court, they were okay in this game. If they didn't, it got ugly in a hurry. But look, there are no winners. I always do the individual player. If you're new to the podcast, I always break down the players. So that's what I'm doing this for. But one more time, aside from Dyson, I don't think anybody played to their usual level. Everyone's level is different. Trey's 40 percentile game is better than most guys' 40 percentile games, but he was not great in this one, and so on. But yeah, a rough one at the office of the Hawks. Now, what does it mean? Before we sign off, it's one game. It's 1 of 82. I know they were winning every game for 2 weeks. That's obviously more fun. But you don't want to get blown out ever, especially on your home court. But I don't think this is like a huge indictment of where the Hawks are right now. With that said, it's not great vibes to go into your biggest game of the season on Wednesday after this performance. Hopefully Jalen and Bogey get back for Wednesday. We won't know that probably until at least Tuesday, if not all the way till Wednesday. But in the meantime, it's one to forget for the Hawks, to be sure. All right, before we sign off, I'll look ahead briefly here. They don't play again until Wednesday, no matter what. New York is who they play against, the Knicks at MSG on Wednesday in the quarterfinal. That's a win, and you go to Vegas. If you lose, you play a makeup game on Sunday. That's as simple as that. It does count in the standings, though. People have asked that question several times in the last couple of days. This game does count in the standings, win or lose. It will be on the Hawks' 82-game resume either way. New York plays on Monday. If you want to watch the Knicks to get a little bit more of an idea of them, they are the only game on Monday in the NBA. Is Knicks at Raptors. So that's one to watch if you want to watch basketball on Monday evening. I will do at least one episode, maybe even two, but at least one. I can promise you that between now and the game on Wednesday to kind of preview things a little bit, set the table for what's going to be transpiring there. But obviously a huge one there. You don't want to overstate it. It's not like an NBA Finals game, but it's a win or go home for the Hawks. And right now at FanDuel, a little bit of a look ahead, pre-injury reports, all those things. The Hawks are 8.5-point underdogs in that game. So an uphill battle to be sure. The Knicks have a better record. The Knicks are a really good offensive team. At the same time, it's a winnable game, in my opinion. So we'll cover that game in depth this week. But no matter what, they have one game in the next 6 days. Might even be 7 days. They play Wednesday and then not again until at least Saturday if it's semifinals or Sunday if they lose on Wednesday. So buckle up. A lot of focus on one game this week, but stay tuned. We'll have full coverage of that one and more. Please subscribe to the Locked on Hawks podcast anywhere you find your podcasts. Check us out on Apple and Spotify as well as on YouTube. Please like this video as you are watching it. I very much appreciate that. Follow the show on Twitter/X at Locked on Hawks. Follow me there at BT Rowland. Follow all my non-podcast work at patreon.com/BT Rowland, including a bonus episode of a podcast of sorts on that feed. Patreon.com/BT Rowland with Glenn Willis, good friend of the podcast, in the last couple of hours and days. Also, follow me on Blue Sky at BT Rowland. I appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. It's very much appreciated. Even on a night like this, I'm sure the numbers will be down as they often are when the Hawks lose. But more to come. I promise you that. And in big picture, the last 2 weeks have been really good for the Hawks. They just lost this one in ugly fashion, but 13-12 on the season and 25 games in. If you gave Hawks fans that, most of them would have probably taken it. So we'll leave it there for now. More to come, and we'll see you all next time.